entertain information, questions, thoughts. Kelly.
Oh, I love the looks of the book, Connie. I wanted to remind everybody that we do have a regional library system. It doesn't go to all our county schools, but certainly books that are in the shortgrass system go throughout the entire province and are available to anybody in the province. So I just want to remind everybody of that availability, and that was put in place, part of the reason to save some book buying, right? So just throw that out there for food for thought. It doesn't, again, Bazzano, Rosemary, and Duchess have their own school libraries, but otherwise that would, the shortgrass system provides books throughout the rest of the county through their mini libraries, municipal libraries.
Marie?
Yeah, good point, Kelly. There is different avenues of getting a book, any book, into the school system. And I think at our level of government that we can support the resolutions to have agriculture being promoted in the schools. And I think that's where maybe we have to stop. I don't feel right about buying one book where there might be quite a few more out there that, you know, I just think we should stop at the resolution level.
Thoughts? Brian?
Connie, I think I read there that the book will be available at the ASB Winter Conference in Banff.
Yeah, because I'm attending as a delegate from Cypress County, so I've asked the AAA to give me a free table, but $1,500 is a lot for first-time authors. But if you order books, I'll track it down again and get any.
So I would like to, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to buy a book, at least one, probably a few more. And if nothing else, at least, like Kelly said, I want to donate it to my local library. The struggle that I have is I have a neighbor and that she's in the same business, and I've discouraged her from coming to council too. And she's published a few books, and they're farm related. They're way different than yours. They're more interactive, I think. She does felt and stuff like that, and they're great. We got them for our grandkids and stuff like that, but I can't really support your request when I've already indicated to somebody else that, you know, so that's how I'm coming at it from, so I hope you respect that.
Other thoughts? So are people feeling that it's something that you could personally support versus publicly supporting because of the bind it might put us in with letting people know that this is an avenue for support? I don't know. Lionel?
I like the principle of a personal donation rather than from the county as a whole. Personally, that's my thoughts anyway.
Tracy?
How would Connie get her books into the library systems?
Well, once one or all of us were to donate a book to our local library, then it becomes a property of that library. And if they are a member of the shortgrass system, it then gets into the system as well. It's cataloged, and it's up for borrow throughout the entire province. So getting the word out there that this book is available could be borrowed from Red Deer or any place from the north that has a regional library card and member. So, and then to the schools, that's another option. You know, Bazzano, Rosemary, and Dutchess, they have their in-school libraries, so that's another option, and that wouldn't be borrowed outside of the school, but still available for students. And then, of course, we all have family and friends who live rurally or urbanly, so we can get them into the cities that way as well. But I think, Connie, your presentation today was great, and we'll certainly, I will be doing my part to promote your endeavors.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I think our rural kids may be losing a few things along the way, but those who truly live on farms are still pretty into this. I think if we're, you know, I'll buy some books too, but I'm going to make sure they get into more urban settings. So we are not going to, we're saying that we'll look after this on a personal level rather than a public level. Everybody's okay with that? Connie, this order form that's in our books, we could email back to you, or well, we could send checks, but you said $18 each plus GST. Okay. Well, folks, don't forget to put your money where your mouth is and get your orders in. Yeah. Or yes, they're purchased at the ASB conference too. So both of. Thank you, Connie, for the work that you do. And
Yeah, thanks for listening.
you betcha. And I'm sure people will be looking forward to seeing you at the Ag Service Board conference, and you're hoping for your books to be there.
Yeah, that's, the goal to outprint it, and then just try to find some space to sell them. Still working on that.
Yeah, all right. Well, good luck with that all, and thank you for what you do. Bye-bye. All right, we have a 1 o'clock delegation. John and, oh, he's back. So this is item 8.3, top of our page 2. And it is involving the invasive species and a proposed bylaw. And we welcome John and Brandy. And we'll do some quick introductions here around our table. And then Brandy can, John and Brandy can, we know who John is, Brandy can fill us in on where she fits into seeing us, and we'll go over to Lionel.
Hi, Brandy. Lionel Justin. I'm from Division 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
Good afternoon. Huey Kellum, Division 2, Tilley.
Hi, Brandy. I'm Tracy Fife, Division 5, which is south and west around Brooks.
Anne-Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Brandy Zhang around the Village Duchess.
Good afternoon, Clarence Amulin, and I live in Rolling Hills.
Hi and welcome. I'm Molly Douglas, and I live in the northern part of the county out by the Red Deer River.
Welcome. I'm Kevin Stevenson, County Administrator.
Hi, I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county.
Hi, Wayne Hammergan. I'm from Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good afternoon, Ellen Unra, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good afternoon, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Lane Johnson, the Director of Corporate Services.
I think my microphone's on. My name is Brandy Dirksen. I currently work at the Eastern Irrigation District, and I am overseeing their aquatic invasive species prevention program. It was a relatively new position, but been here since the end of April.
You said you started at the end of April?
Yes.
Okay.
I did, yes.
All right. Yeah. And so you guys are coming today with a bylaw to make it easier for enforcement.
Yes, that is correct. So basically, for For the purpose of this report, the invasive species are mussels that reproduce rapidly and cause extensive damage to the infrastructure and also watercraft. And in order to mitigate and prevent this, I'm here to propose a bylaw for invasive species to be presented just for discussion. And basically, the introduction of the invasive species in the water bodies within the County of Newell, I believe, would have major consequences. It's the potential for clogged pipes caused by the introduction of invasive species would significantly affect the farming community that relies on irrigation water. And I believe another significant consequence from an invasive species introduction into the local water bodies would be the potential impact on the aspect of local tourism industry that caters to recreation on local reservoirs. The introduction of mussels into the water bodies would have a huge financial impact as well within the county of Newell. Now, the reason for considering a bylaw is that presently the provincial government has not granted community peace officers authority to address control measures required to prevent the establishment of invasive species. This has limited the options available when dealing with watercraft. A bylaw would provide the legal authority to deal with this matter. I've also enclosed links to resource material on mussels and concerns about dealing with this growing problem. Also included is some information submitted by the EID just on some of the suggested parameters that should be included within a bylaw. And as you saw here, I've enclosed like some websites here for additional information on the invasive species. As well, Brandy is here. She has a better knowledge base on the invasive species to answer any questions on the risk and potential impact that aquatic invasive species could affect the county of Newell. One thing I will specify though, I have it as invasive species, but we are looking at aquatic invasive species. So this isn't all invasive species, meaning weeds and all that. We're just focusing on the aquatic invasive species for this proposal, for this discussion.
So we are aware that in the last few years about the inspection sites and those sorts of things, so county peace officers have not been able to be very involved in that, John, is that?
Yeah, correct. Right now, what I've done is I've contacted the manager of peace officer program and asked about the authority right now with the province. Like, can we get the authority to do inspections under the fisheries and what they're doing right now? And the province, Soldiana said, no, they're not looking at giving community peace officers the authority at this time. So right now, we're really limited. What we can do is if they're on EID land, because it's still on EID land, we've been asking, basically it is voluntary, saying, look, you know, we need to inspect your boat and all that, and you know, and if there's refusal, then EID would have the option to say, you know, you have to leave the property, but it is limiting us on what authority that we can do to mitigate or assist even EID for their inspections, right? Even on that part of it, where, like I say, a bylaw would help us out for authority, help EID out for doing their inspections, where they can say, well, it's not voluntary. There's actually a bylaw in place, you know, that you have to get it inspected before you go onto the water, which I think may be in some instances more to the public, more receptive than saying it's voluntary, because if they hear voluntary, then it's like, well, you know, I don't feel like doing this.
And Brandy, do you want to add to?
So I worked at the Dunmore station for the provincial government, which is the most eastern station. It's also the most high-risk station. I worked there for 2 years before I was brought on with the EID. So I encountered many mussel boats. I decontaminated many mussel boats and really got to experience firsthand the severity of these mussels and how many can actually go into a reservoir just based on it coming off of a watercraft. And they're absolutely detrimental. And so having this bylaw in place would just help concrete that idea, I guess, because a lot of people are still not completely aware of these zebra mussels or the other consequences they can have on irrigation, agriculture, as well as municipal water use and tourism.
Questions, folks? Tracy, Brian?
Will there be extra training needed for you in order to fully detect, or you've already been going through this with EID for detection and inspection?
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, EID was really good. They actually offered us the basic training, which was no cost, to get like an idea of what to look for. And then the other part of it is we would be heavily using Brandy as a resource to do like us is kind of looking real basic and go, okay, is there an issue? And then we can refer to Brandy and ask and say, this is what we got. If she's not close, what are your options or what are your thoughts on it? So we've received the basic training where Brandy said with the Provincial, she's received even further training.
So, two questions, I guess, or two. First of all, have you had, with the amount of surveillance that's been done so far, have you had any pushbacks from boat users as far as having their equipment scrutinized? And so that's the first question. Second question is do you see a problem with being able to enforce it? Because it goes back to what we deal with many times. Right. It's one thing to put rules in, whether they're speed or traffic or other stuff that you're responsible for, and it's another thing to have the resources to actually be able to do the enforcement. So you can answer those two, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions, Brian. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, the first question, and Brandy would be aware of this because she was the one that dealt with it, and it was a watercraft from the States that pulled into their check station there to be checked, and we explained to him what his options were, that there was a check and all that, and that boater had some issues, because he basically went by the Dunmore station and didn't get checked, so he thought, hey, if they don't check me, I'm good. And because he come from a high-risk water location, that he was told he had to be checked, and there was some pushback on that. He did at the end go back and get it checked. I'll let Brandy maybe fill in a little more on that one if you wish, because you were directly interacting with him.
So I think the one that you're speaking of, he came from Idaho.
That's correct.
He was in Sandpoint, Idaho, which I've now know is like a very popular area in the summer for Alberta boaters, because it's just like, it's mountains, very pretty. He went up through BC because going through up through Montana, there was a mountain range he had to cross, and he wanted to avoid that, so he went up through BC, and the western stations have all been closed as of this year. And so he was planning on going through the Jumping Pound station, which is just west of Calgary, but that one was closed. And then he came directly to us, to Lake Newell, and we told him these are the options. He was also had water in his engine and his bilge that I could see pouring out, and I was concerned of veligerd, which is a microscopic larvae of these mussels, which are very present in water, and Idaho doesn't have a very stringent protocol and monitoring program that Alberta or BC does. And so just to be safe, sent him to Dunmore, and he did have some pushback because it was an extra 2 or 3 hours out of his way, and he said that Idaho doesn't have mussels and that shouldn't be a concern, and that we were being a little ridiculous. But eventually he went to the Dunmore station and got inspected and came back and provided that documentation.
Yeah, I would say that, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, that from what I'm hearing from Brandy and talking to him when we go in and talk to him, that people have been very responsive to helping us, right? Especially when you explain that it's in their interest, that we don't want the waterways infected. So people have been pretty good about, from my understanding, of getting checked, and not a lot of pushback. But we had that instance that Brandy dealt, and that's kind of the ones we're trying to deal with. That get really good compliance, but it's the ones that aren't that trying to give us options to go, how are we going to deal with them? So that's the first part. And then the second part, Brian, of the question there for this bylaw and response. I can tell you, not speaking directly to this one because this would be the first one, but City of Calgary did do a bylaw for life jackets, that you have to have them if you're in the Bow River. That actually was challenged, and that's under the Municipal Government Act, Section 60. It went to court for that bylaw and was challenged, and it was success. The person lost, so it was successfully upheld with the bylaw, and that person had to pay whatever the fine was. So then it became case law. So I'm kind of bringing that forward, saying that that has been an example of a bylaw and an MGA kind of mirroring a federal law or provincial law that went bylaw way and was upheld in the courts. So going from that, I'm saying if it goes forward, and I can't say 100% like everything, but I can say that there has been instances with bylaws that have went through and been upheld. I hope that answers.
Yeah, no, I think I was more in terms of, are you able to physically, with your staff and with, are you able to actually be able to provide the kind of coverage that the EID and the objective is, and good information as far as the statute and how it works within the MGA, but I guess from a physical, how to get around sort of thing, how do you foresee problems or not?
Thank you, sorry. The resource side is what I'm understanding, kind of what you're saying, staffing. Yes, on that end, it would be a little more work for us as far as, if we ever did go ahead with the charge, that would be a little more work on our end. We do currently, right now, we do try and check with Brandy and their station and make sure how everything's going. So we currently are doing that resource-wise to do pop-ins and check with them with the EID patrols. So we, again, we are already doing that. Like I say, our resources where it would be a little more would be, as far as the enforcement part, I guess, obviously, because we don't have that right now. But the physical checking and doing that, we already have been doing it with the EID during the summer. If that answers that.
Alan and Kelly?
You certainly got me convinced. I think we can't afford not to. And even if when this bylaw is into place, the EID can say it is a bylaw. It's not just voluntary anymore. So I'm certainly ready to make a motion to, what is the option 1? To proceed with the preparation of the said bylaw.
Thank you. Kelly?
My thing is, must be inspected. So how long am I, as a water user, going to have to sit at the boat launch to wait for inspection?
Right.
And is there any restriction? I mean, is there a limit? Will it be waiting 30 days? I'm being facetious.
Fair enough. No, for sure.
I've been at the boat. I'm not a boater, okay?
Right.
I'll be straight up. But I've been out to the lake lots. People pull up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They've got, 4 hours left to ride on the lake, and they're backing up as fast as they're driving in. So how's this going to work? And we have how many places to launch in the county of Newell? So help me understand how we can do that.
No, thank you, Kelly. Fair question. I can make one comment on that because I did have an interaction with a boater and expressed your concern going, well, he wanted to get on the water and all that. He was receptive when I explained to him and said that, it's for his protection. Like I said, if to get on the water and you're enjoying your boating right now, I said, would you want to go in water that's basically like some in the States right now, they're infested with aquatic invasive mussels? And he's like, well, no. So I said, well, this is a way of us preventing it. So there may be a timeline of you waiting to get your boat inspected to go on. But once it's inspected, the EID gives a sticker. So that way you don't have to get it inspected every time to help, Yes, and I can get Brandy definitely to explain a little further, but I did explain to him, because same question you had, do I have to do this every time? No, you don't. Once you're inspected, you're good for the season, unless, you know, again, Brandy will go more detail, but, and then I explained about the aquatic and the prevention part of it. So when I explained the prevention part, he's like, okay, I'm willing to wait because of what you're just explaining, but it's more giving that information out to the public and telling them, so that you're trying to explain, we're not trying to interfere and delay you on your enjoyment. There's a reason why we're doing this, and it's to let you have further enjoyment in future time. You want to expand on?
Yeah, so I completely understand your concern, because when I worked at Dunmore, we had very long wait times. So when I came into the EID, I wanted to adapt the same protocols, but I wanted to make sure that it was streamlined and it didn't take 5-10 minutes for people to sit there, because you're at the launch, people want to get in the water immediately. And so we asked a series of questions. We just asked them where they were last, what water body they were in, if they've been out of the province or out of Canada. And then based on those questions, if they haven't been out of the province, it's like a 5-second inspection. We just make sure we fill the hall, take a good look at their engine, make sure nothing is suspect on there, give them a sticker and make them sign up while we're doing the inspection, and then they're good to go. We educate about the sticker program, and like John said, if you have the sticker, you're good to go whenever you come through a check stop. So like Rolling Hills, like the campground, or the Crawling Valley, or the campground, just want to make sure you check in at the office. They ask you the same question, but we don't do a lengthy inspection like we would. It's if anything, we do maybe if there's 2 people, maybe you'll do the same inspection, but it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 seconds. And then the only way it would be longer is if people have been out of the province and you have to explain to them, like, unfortunately, you're going to have to go to this inspection station. So for the majority, it only takes, like, if we have a long line of 10 or 15 boats, it maybe takes about 2 or 3 minutes to get through all of them. If people don't ask questions, people like to ask questions, which is very good, so we can educate about our reservoirs and about irrigation and our sticker program, but it usually doesn't take very long, so.
And the sticker program, like we said, if you get a sticker, then it's good for that season, correct?
Exactly. So we hand out a sticker every year. They have to be renewed annually. But like John said, if you have a sticker, we kind of consider you low risk. We ask if you've been out of the province in the last 30 days. And if you haven't, you're good to go. Like I said, we might do like a really low key inspection, like just make sure we check the engine, make sure there's no water. But other than that, it's very straightforward and people get through pretty fast.
Great. Well, we have a motion on the table to recommend that we proceed with the development of a bylaw. I guess it'll have to come back to us.
That's correct. Yeah, it would just be to go ahead further with the development of the bylaw.
Further discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. It's nice to meet you, and I had no idea that the ID had hired somebody. So you're basically in charge of education and prevention and catching people and all of the above.
Yeah, during the winter, I try to educate as many people as I can to keep busy, because obviously you can't go boating in the winter. And then during the summer, I'm doing education, making sure that our signs are all up to date and inspections. And so summer's pretty busy, but it's been very good.
So the EID poached you then from the provincial government?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, welcome to our community, even though you've been here for quite a while.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy it like we do.
Yes, for sure. I love it so far. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you, Council, and Merry Christmas.
You too.
What's 9-1? 9-1 is the Calgary Stampede Park Family. Okay. So we do go through this one every year, or we have at least since I've been around, and I think according to our records, a few years before that. So that's good news, and I think we still have some wonderful people that we could nominate for the award. But typically that part of the nomination process I leave up to the wonderful people on the other side of the table, because that's a relatively sometimes political decision, but there is on the back page, or I guess on my back page of the past winners, there's some great options there, and we've had great options come from you guys before too. So I'm happy to fill out the paperwork and send it to the ladies from the Calgary Stampede to make the nomination go through. I just need a name to do that too.
Do you have anyone from for this year? Marie, you're thinking?
I don't have a name, but looking at the years that we have given out these rewards or presented names, it will be Division 4 and Division 6 that maybe have to think about a person that they have in their division.
Isn't it more like Div 9?
What's that? Well, Div 9's had 3, so, I mean, the last one was a long time ago, but there's been 3 from Div 9, 3 from 8. I thought there was another area, 3 from 2. So I'm thinking that before we go back, not that it matters, there's no rules, but 6, you're thinking? And 2? No, 2's got 3. 4. 4 and 6, maybe should be thinking. Especially 4, 03. Yeah, 98.
I think the reason that this discussion is so hard to find somebody is because we have so many wonderful producers that fit the mold up for this nomination, right? But yes, certainly we've been away from Division 4 and Division 6 for the longest. I guess sorry, not necessarily the longest, but they've only had 2 per division.
Yeah.
So great ideas. On that options page, there are a few for Division 4 and Division 6, and there's also others that I probably don't have on this list. So you guys would probably know them better.
And there's quite a long list of possibilities on the page that follows, and there are some Div 4 and Div 6 recommendations. So maybe, Wayne?
Just going to say both of those recommendations I would go with, but I guess they're both neighbors of mine, so I don't really want to recommend one over the other.
The thing is that sometimes people don't want to be honored, correct, Todd?
Yeah.
So it might be something to start by speaking to them.
I can do that.
And,
yeah, I will do that.
you know, if the first one accepts, maybe you'll have to keep the other one in your pocket for the next
2 or
time.
3 years.
I don't know.
Yeah.
When's the deadline for the application, Todd?
The end of January is when I have to have all the paperwork.
I can have it next week for you.
Me and Wayne will work on it together then. If that's so, do we want to just maybe make the motion that it's from Div 4?
It's up to council. Div 6. How about you? Well, maybe we should look at that.
I really like Gary Evans in Division 6 also. But, you know, if we go with 4, that's okay.
Yes, please.
I'd like to move that Todd and Wayne find somebody in Div 4.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And on to the resolutions, 9.2.
I'm trying to make it so it doesn't squeak, but I'm not really that great with audio. Hoping that makes it better. I think it was coming through the speaker and then yelling back at itself somehow.
our volume is not coming out of our, your little, okay. Have a listen right now and see if, nothing is coming out of mine when I listen to the rest of you. And it's turned right up on my individual thing. Oh, perfect. There is a switch on the side. Yeah, no other side. No, and we'll push this button. It's gotta be on sub. Thanks. It's got to be on sub. There's a little switch. Well, it's.
Hi, Molly.
Yeah. Perfect. How many years has it been? 6? We're getting there. Who turns off these buttons anyhow? All right. I am happy now.
All right, well, we have, oh boy. How did that happen? No wonder we had to, no, I'm not going to say. That's very loud all of a sudden. Doesn't it sound really loud? All right, so we got 14 resolutions to get through. I think I said 13 in the RFD, but I believe there was 14 in your agenda package. So I think this is for the conference in January. Everybody remembers the Ag Service Board conference. Many of you are attending, which is fantastic. The first resolution is about the Alberta Agriculture website. In fact, both of the first one and the second one are about the Alberta Agriculture website. When the Alberta government updated their website, they removed a lot of the old roping the web functionality, and I think a lot of the agricultural community really enjoyed the functionality that was there, especially a few things like the marketplace, the general stores, just a lot of the things that guys use are like the ag calculators or things like that. So pretty basic ones just to get some information back from the websites. I don't think there would be too much resistance to getting some of that functionality back. So I kind of had put check marks beside the first two, as in that we might support those ones. One is from the south, so Cypress County is the first one, and Mountain View in the central did the second one. And for whatever reason, they don't combine them unless they're exactly the same. Okay. The third one is the Weed and Pest Surveillance and Monitoring Technology Grant. This was a funny one for me because usually municipalities want to have some autonomy and do things a little bit on their own, but Woodlands County has asked that Alberta Agriculture provide a technology grant and personnel to assist municipalities. And essentially the idea is that they want everybody to be using the same collection system, whether it be for pest surveys, whether it be for weed inspecting. They want us to use the same technology to gather that data, and then we can share it easily. I think it's a little bit problematic. We use a product called Art Collector for our weed inspecting stuff. And there's other municipalities that use that exact same technology, but we use it just a little bit different because our programs are a little bit different. Some people hand out weed notices whenever they find a weed. Some people don't hand out weed notices. Some people want to monitor how big a weed patch is over time. Some people just want to be able to get back to that weed site to investigate whether it's still there and work with the landowner. So I mean, there's so many differences between the political cultures in those ag service boards and the different areas, whether we're more rural, we're more urban. There's just different ideals behind the programs. So this one was a really weird one for me. I was surprised that anybody would want to be the same province-wide. So, and maybe Woodlands County will do a fantastic job of providing some good clarification on that, but to me it just seemed odd.
And I'm assuming that when Todd has feelings about it, it's that we would support those because it's the way you do business and it works for us, right? So I'm just going to keep moving through these.
We have 4 more minutes.
No, we've got longer.
All right, so the club root pathotype testing. This is I never really did understand why the provincial government didn't use their lab to do the pathotype testing. So I'm not sure if you guys were able to get through all of the background information. It outlines it pretty good. The idea is when you have clubroot in your field, it can be of multiple different varieties of clubroot. We currently only have resistant canola for 2 of those pathotypes. So we have 15 pathotypes that could be in our soil and affect all canola grown. So that would reduce yield, the same thing that clubroot does normally. So from the municipal stamp, or at least from the way we do things, if we find clubroot in your field, the idea is that we have clubroot in that field, we're going to manage that clubroot. We're not always necessarily managing for a different pathotype of clubroot. So what we've been doing is working with Mike at CDC, and he's doing the pathotype testing. So he sends it to Dr. Steven Strelkov, and they work through that so that they know and they can test the prevalence of different pathotypes in the province. So we monitor the clubroot in the field and making sure that the clubroot stays in the field and not move to the neighbors, and they're trying to manage something completely different. But what Big Lakes County has wrote here is that they just want the University of Alberta to be able to continue that pathotype testing and monitoring, which I don't disagree that there's a benefit to that for the canola industry, for farmers, for the seed dealers. I'm just not sure who's necessarily responsible to pay for that, whether it should be government, whether it should be the seed companies, or whether it should be the municipalities that are interested in